After traveling for 3 days from Sicily, Scipio led his army of 35,000 men to land near Cape Farina, which was about 16 miles northeast of Utica. This sudden arrival caused panic among the Carthaginian civilians in the surrounding countryside, prompting them to seek refuge in nearby towns. Meanwhile, Carthage had at its disposal 14,200 inexperienced soldiers, comprising 13,000 infantry and 1,200 cavalry, led by General Hasdrubal Gisgo, stationed 25 miles inland. Upon learning of Scipio's arrival, the Carthaginian Senate quickly ordered a general mobilization and sought aid from Syphax. Hasdrubal, in response, bolstered his forces by recruiting additional cavalry and obtaining 4,000 horses from the Numidians. Scipio's forces marched inland, establishing a secure position by capturing a ridgeline and unloading men, horses, and supplies on the beachhead. They set up guards and outposts while sending cavalry units to gather information, as well as to raid and burn Carthaginian farms and property. A 1,000-strong Carthaginian cavalry squadron led by the aristocrat Hanno was dispatched to observe and harass Scipio. Scipio ordered the Numidian leader Messinissa to attack, and then lure the enemy into a rash pursuit, to a position where the Roman cavalry would be concealed in ambush. It was the same type of tactic which Numidian cavalry had used in the past against Roman armies, and proved just as effective. Hanno fell and 1,000 of his men were killed or captured in the initial fight. The Roman army subsequently captured a nearby town, and proceeded to loot the prosperous Carthaginian farmlands thoroughly. As a result of their actions, the Romans took 8,000 individuals, including Carthaginian civilians and slaves, as hostages to Sicily, along with a significant amount of booty. After moving to Utica, Scipio positioned his forces on a line of hills about 1 mile away from the city. His Roman fleet attempted to block Utica's port as part of his plan to capture the ancient Phoenician port city and convert it into a supply base for future military operations. Scipio had siege engines and artillery at his disposal and received additional reinforcements from Sicily, including more artillery crafted by skilled artisans in an arsenal. Despite using siege engines and naval support, the direct assault on Utica's walls failed, forcing the Romans to resort to a regular siege of the city. The siege lasted for 40 days until the emergence of 2 large enemy armies brought it to an end. These armies were led by Hasdrubal Gisgo and his son-in-law Syphax, whose numerical superiority compelled Scipio to retreat to a nearby promontory, known as Castra Cornelia. There, he fortified the narrow land passage and established winter quarters, relying on supplies of food and clothing that were being sent from Sicily, Sardinia, and Iberia. Hasdrubal and Syphax set up their separate camps at a distance from Castra Cornelia. Scipio, in an effort to gain an advantage over Syphax and the Numidian forces, sent emissaries to persuade Syphax to defect and join the Roman side. In response, Syphax offered to broker peace terms between the Romans and Carthaginians. The negotiations between the two parties went on for several days, with delegations exchanging proposals. However, Scipio had ulterior motives during the negotiations. He covertly sent junior officers disguised as slaves with the Roman delegations to gather crucial intelligence about the layout and construction of the Numidian camp, the size and composition of their army, and the frequently used routes in and out of their camp. The Carthaginian camp was robustly constructed, with earthen ramparts and timber-built barracks, indicating solid defense structures. On the other hand, the Numidian camp was relatively less fortified, lacking a clearly defined perimeter, and the soldiers' accommodations were largely made of reeds and thatch. Scipio deliberately prolonged the negotiations with Syphax, making it seem like he was open to the idea of a peace treaty. However, his true intention was not to agree to peace, but to use the talks as a pretext to gain valuable military intelligence. In the context of the ethical standards of the time, launching a surprise attack while engaging in peace negotiations was considered ethically dubious. Ancient Roman historians attempted to excuse or explain Scipio's behavior, possibly due to the prevailing belief in the ends justify the means. Approach to warfare. In 203 BC, as spring approached and the weather improved, Scipio addressed his troops, informing them of his upcoming attempt to storm the defenses of Utica. He also began visible preparations for the assault. However, secretly, he was also planning a night attack on the enemy camps. Through local knowledge and careful scouting, Scipio identified the routes that would cause the least trouble during the nighttime operation. He thoroughly briefed his senior officers on the plan. On the night of the attack, a strong guard was left at Castra Cornelia. At approximately 9 or 10 in the evening, 2 columns set out. One of the columns, led by Laelius, a commander with significant experience under Scipio, consisted of about half of the Roman attackers, and was accompanied by the Numidians. Their objective was Syphax camp. Meanwhile, Scipio himself led the remaining Roman force in an assault against the Carthaginian camp. The exact total number of troops involved in the attack is not known. Under the cover of darkness, the Roman and Numidian forces stealthily made their way towards the enemy camps. The night was eerily quiet, and the troops moved with caution, knowing that the element of surprise was crucial to their success. Thanks to the meticulous reconnaissance conducted prior to the attack, they managed to reach their positions without any major obstacles. Masiniss's Numidian cavalry took strategic positions, ensuring that every route out of the enemy camps was covered, their silent presence concealed within the shadows, waiting to spring into action. Laelius's column, led by the experienced commander, approached Syphax's camp. As the signal was given, they launched their assault with a thunderous roar, storming the camp with fierce determination. Reed huts were set ablaze, engulfing the camp in chaos and confusion. The element of surprise caught the Numidians off guard, with many initially assuming that the barracks had accidentally caught fire. Panic spread like wildfire as the Romans struck down any enemy soldier who tried to escape the blazing inferno. Laelius's troops moved with deadly precision, their training and discipline evident in every swift and calculated strike. The sound of battle cries mingled with the crackling flames, creating an intimidating symphony of war. While the Romans unleashed their fury on those attempting to flee, Masiniss's Numidian cavalry pounced on the ones who managed to slip past the Roman ranks. With skillful horsemanship and deadly accuracy, they swiftly neutralized any threats that dared to challenge them. As the battle raged on, the combined might of the Roman and Numidian forces proved too overwhelming for Syphax's camp to withstand. The once organized and defiant enemy now crumbled before their relentless assault. As the distant glow of the fire in Syphax's camp caught the attention of the Carthaginians, confusion spread among them. Some rushed towards the burning camp to assist in extinguishing the flames, believing their allies were in dire need of help. Unbeknownst to them, it was a trap. Scipio's pre-planned coordination was about to unleash chaos upon their ranks. With precision and unity, Scipio's contingent sprang into action, exploiting the distraction caused by the Carthaginians' concern for their fellow soldiers. The Romans struck like vengeful ghosts in the night. Swiftly, they cut down any Carthaginians heading for their allies' camp, preventing them from providing reinforcement. The Carthaginians were caught off guard as Scipio's forces descended upon them with ferocious determination. They stormed Hasdrubal's camp, the element of surprise working to their advantage. The Carthaginians struggled to don their armor or grasp their weapons in the darkness and confusion that enveloped them, making them vulnerable targets. In a blaze of fury, the Romans attempted to set fire to the wooden housing of the Carthaginian camp. Their efforts were successful and flames erupted, swiftly spreading between the closely spaced barracks. The night sky transformed into a flickering inferno, illuminating the faces of both Roman and Carthaginian soldiers alike. As the fire roared, panic gripped the Carthaginian ranks. The crackling flames cast eerie shadows, further disorienting the already terrified soldiers. Carthaginians rushed out into the dark and chaotic battleground, their dreams of victory shattered by the reality of an unforeseen disaster. Some desperately tried to escape the encroaching flames, abandoning their armor and weapons in their frantic bid for survival. Others, disoriented and disarmed, attempted to fight the fire, but their efforts were futile against the relentless fury of the inferno. Amidst the chaos, the organized and prepared Romans pressed their advantage. With the night as their ally, they struck down their bewildered foes with ruthless efficiency. The clash of steel echoed through the tumultuous night, while the anguished cries of the Carthaginians pierced the darkness. Scipio's strategy had proved devastatingly effective. The once formidable Carthaginian camp now lay in ruins, engulfed in flames and defeat. The Carthaginians had been caught in a deadly vice, trapped between the flames and the relentless onslaught of the Romans. As the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, the last embers of the fire danced in the morning breeze. The Battle of Utica had turned into a gruesome spectacle, where the cost of victory had been paid in the lives of fallen soldiers from both sides. According to Publius, Hasdrubal managed to escape from his burning camp with only 2,500 men. Similarly, Syphax also escaped but with only a few cavalry. The ancient sources differ in their accounts of the enemy casualties, with some claiming that either 30,000 or 40,000 Carthaginians and Numidians were killed, and either 2,400 or 5,000 were captured. However, modern historians consider these figures to be greatly exaggerated. The next morning, the Romans pursued the surviving enemy forces, causing them to scatter. During their pursuit, the Romans captured and looted 2 Carthaginian towns before eventually withdrawing from the area. Hasdrubal's flight took him as far as Carthage, approximately 40 kilometers away from the scene of the disaster. On the other hand, Syphax rallied his forces at the town of Abba, situated about 11 kilometers from where the battle had taken place. With the Carthaginian field army defeated and no longer posing a threat, the Romans intensified their siege of Utica and conducted widespread pillaging throughout North Africa. Their raids were both powerful and far-reaching, resulting in the acquisition of substantial spoils. including gold, slaves, and large quantities of food supplies. These supplies were a valuable addition to the extensive stockpile the Romans had already amassed by transporting grain from Sicily.